lastly tonight, I want to speak about Mississippi. Now, the moral of the story is generally Mississippi and states like it have tried stuff like this in the past and it's not working, but let's be completely honest. We have states like Texas and many others that are just so fed up and cannot secede that they are trying to secede subversively. Case in point, Mississippi wants a bill that gives Mississippi the right to ignore federal law. Mississippi waives bill to ignore federal laws. HB 490 seeks to assert, quote, sovereignty, end quote, of state. Angry about Obamacare and the president's gun control proposals, meaning the non-proposals at this point to ban assault rifles, the non-proposals at this point to ban high-capacity mags. You mean the one proposal that he made at this point in time that has to do with making sure that there are universal background checks even at gun shows? Oh, noes! Obama's a fascist. Call the fascist police because Obama needs to go to jail. Or Obamacare, where we make sure that people who shouldn't be reproducing have the ability to get themselves snipped or to get their tubes tied or to get contraception. Contraception, by the way, in some cases, to regulate their body's regular flow, because they can't regulate their periods through sex because that's immoral. But trying to use contraception still gets them, still gets them moral condemnation because it can't be for their body. They must be secretly using their body, their female problems as an excuse to get this contraception so they can have copious amounts of sex that you don't morally approve of. In other words, some women can't win. If the moral majority had their way, most women would just bleed out to death because of the fact that they can't have the sex to regulate their periods for those who need it, and they can't take the contraception because either thing is a mandatory sentence of slut shaming. Yeah, but no, I'm sorry, I forgot. As the Republican position comes, what harm is slut shaming? Well, there's Exhibit A for one thing. So you don't want these people on welfare, but yet should they have sexual relations and reproduce, you want to force parenthood on them, which will almost assuredly force them into a welfare kind of state where they'll just continue to have unprotected sex, which will then continue to lead to things such as more kids, costing you more and more tax dollars as it is anyways to care for these little welfare brats. Do I have it right so far? Two Mississippi state representatives have filed a bill to create a joint legislative community on the neutralization of the federal laws, reports AP. Republicans Gary Chisholm, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but sorry, and Jeff Smith say that the bill is about supporting states' rights. Wow, where have I talked about the failure of states' rights? Where have I talked about the problem for some of the rights with states' rights? Could it be the Confederacy? Could it be New York with its assault weapon ban at a time when everybody was saying that it was Obama that was going to make an assault weapons ban? Oh, the irony of states' rights and how they've become such this bane in the sides of a lot of states. Granted, you can still argue, well, what about Colorado and its recreational marijuana law? You're right. I'm not going to tap dance around it. I'm not going to pretend like there aren't benefits to it. I'm going to say, though, at the same time, if the naysayers to the current government are trying to create their own sovereignty, they're trying to create their own states where their state rights, not federal rights or federal laws, are enforced, you would do well to heed the warning of the failure of the Confederacy, because I don't bring it up just to be like, ha ha ha, Southern people are stupid. No, I am bringing it about, though, because I'm seeing the same mentality with the Tea Partiers. I'm seeing the same mentality with a lot of the Republicans that led up to this idea of screw your government, I know better, I'm going to govern my country, my Confederate country, the way I'm going to do it. And meanwhile, every state had the exact same idea. That idea didn't include actually working together, and then the Confederacy fell apart because adult people had an inability to be adults and decided to do things like to withhold much needed uniforms for the Confederate Army because the particular state that the Army was in was at odds with the particular state that had the uniforms. Ah, history. Those who do not learn it are doomed to repeat it. I digress. It's about supporting states' rights and clawing back federal overreach. We need to do something to stand up for the 10th Amendment, which says powers not specifically reserved for the federal government are reserved for the states, explains Chisholm. He's right, but that didn't work out too well still for the Confederacy, and it has not worked out for the people who were opposed to gun control who now have it in New York. I digress. Per the Jackson Free Press, among others, the HB 490 intends to, quote, prohibit the infringement of the constitutionally protected rights of the state of Mississippi or its people by means of any federal statute, mandate, executive order, judicial decision, and other actions deemed by the state to be unconstitutional. So, that could mean that if these people decide that speed limits and regulations of drunk driving are unconstitutional because you're infringing on the alcoholic's right to get plastered and get into a moving vehicle and plow into a school bus, then they don't need to enforce that. You know, let's just let the drunks have their fun, right? Because who are we to say that they can't have fun? You know, it's been a long day, they have had a few too many to drink, and some of us are really good drivers when we're drunk, so therefore we're going to apply that logic and say this is unconstitutional. And to assert the sovereignty of the state under Mississippi's Constitution of 1890. Previous attempts by Mississippi to defy the federal government, from secession to sovereignty commissions, a state agency that spied on people believed to support radical equality, have not gone well, notes the AP. It's absolutely the most horrendous idea that has ever come from this august body, said Democrat Steve Holland of the bill. It is political fodder for the right and borderline stupid. And what more needs to be said on that? Absolutely. This is, I'm butthurt, I don't like the federal government because. And so I'm going to mandate that I'm no longer have to follow their laws, and screw them. They won't let us out of our obligations as a state of this union. Then we'll be our own sovereignty, and we'll be able to say what we want, be able to do what we want, be able to enjoy what we want, because we're self-sustaining, we're this, we're that, never mind what the reality might be. But like I said, I absolutely agree that these people should just be annexed out. Just let them have what they want. Let them see how far they can go on their own. Granted, there'd be all sorts of mishmashes. Some of us would have to move, or at least, or apply for residency in these new sovereign states and things. But give them the rope to hang themselves. Some people might die, but you know what? It would be at their own fault. I'm sorry, if you're really going to act this childish as grown adults, I have no sympathy for you when your plans predictably backfire and the people that you're supposedly working on behalf of get hurt, die, or have extreme hardships. Because you know, if you had stopped and thought, if you'd stopped watching the Fox News and other, or reading the Daily Mail and believing these to be real news organizations, not that I'm saying that's the only reason these people act, so please don't mince my words here, then maybe you would realize that some things have to be done for our own good. Some things are not pleasant, but we created the situations that are going to be calling for unpleasant answers. Case in point with population. Case in point why I think sterilization as well as mandates for sterilization as well as mandates for contraception are a must, with the exception of religious organizations with which, again, I do not believe in intruding on them so long as they don't try to intrude on mine. So take of it what you will. This is Mississippi. Are we really surprised?